While we're on the subject, Aaron Brown, who lives in Williamsburg, wrote an article for Jalopnik about learning to ride and purchasing a motorcycle in order to cope with the L train shutdown, which was due to hit the city in April. That was until Governor Cuomo surprised us all by saying that despite years of planning for a 15-month total closure, we could solve the problems with some nighttime and weekend interventions, scotch tape, and gumption. Aaron Brown joins us to talk about motorcycle maintenance and whether the new L train plan is harshing his zen. Thanks so much for joining us, Aaron.
Sure, thank you for having me.
So, to put in your own words, you're a bike boy now. You were a car guy, now you're a bike boy?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I'm probably still more of a car guy than a bike boy, but it is what it is. I'm trying to embrace the motorcycle culture. I'm trying to kind of lean into it as best as I can.
You don't have your jacket on today? But,
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't think my high-vis armored jacket would be the most appropriate. I didn't ride in.
So you sold a car in order to buy a bike. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Was that painful for you? It was a Subaru RX Turbo rally car. I don't know what that is, but
yeah,
you do.
Yeah, no. So that car, it is a fully prepped rally car, basically set up for racing through rally stages like dirt roads in the forest.
So you sold that car in order to buy your motorcycle.
Yeah.
What did you get?
I got a 2013 Moto Guzzi V7 Stone. It's basically like an Italian bike with probably a medium amount of power. It's like 50 horsepower. It's like a 400-pound bike. So it's like kind of... some people think it's a little too much, but like some of the more experienced riders I've spoken to feel it's like a pretty good starting point.
Okay.
I do as well.
And it's a starting point because you didn't actually know how to ride a motorcycle before you decided to commit to riding a motorcycle.
Right. I had an idea, but I had never actually done it. So yeah, it's totally my starting point.
And so you took classes, and actually your instructor was a member of the Sirens.
Yeah, she was great.
And
Jerry.
And so you did this 2-day program. Tell us a little bit about that. Was it challenging? How did that go for you?
Sure. So there are some things that they teach you in this. It's called the MSF Basic Riders Course. They have like different ones for different levels of experience. But basically, it's a 2-day course that you can take at different certified schools that they have across the country. In New York City, if you take this course, you can basically get your motorcycle license after that, and if you already have a motorcycle permit, which you get if you just take a kind of written exam. So the class itself, they start you out in a classroom, kind of give you basics on what to do and what not to do when riding, and then after a couple hours of that, they take you out to a parking lot, a closed course, and they put you on one of their bikes. But before putting you on a bike, they kind of get you make sure you're familiar with the vehicle and comfortable with it and kind of know what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. So for me, as someone who's done like a decent amount of performance driving and kind of understands how to respect like the vehicle, not push beyond your own boundaries or like your car or motorcycle's boundaries, I kind of got it. Also, it helps if you know how to drive a manual transmission car.
Sure.
It's like you have to use the clutch and like shift with your foot, which before taking the class was not something I had done on a bike. I daily drive manual cars. I'm really comfortable with it. So it's easy for me to kind of get that.
But you did fail the test the first time around.
I did. So they make you take a written test in the class right after the classroom stuff, which I did. It's like a 25-question thing. Mm-hmm. Passed that. But at the end of the 2-day, they have you do a skill eval, mm-hmm. Which involves like 5 or 6 different things in the parking lot on the bike to do like a timed lap, emergency braking, object avoidance, slalom, stuff like that. And it can be tricky if you are really not that comfortable on a bike. I got like 1 more point than I was allowed to get. Like you get like 10 max, and if you go over that, you fail. I think I tapped a cone, which you can't do. I went a little too far in the emergency braking zone, which you can't do. Yeah, and
you had only been riding for a day and a half at this point.
Right.
In your defense.
Right.
Okay.
I think I was doing pretty well, but yeah. I don't know. The only other thing, they make you do this really tight U-turn in a box, which you can't put your foot down, and you really have to like just keep it together.
Yeah.
I put my foot down, so that was like the really hard thing. But it was fun. It was super educational for me.
And so you've been using the bike to commute in advance of the L train shutdown, but now it sounds like there isn't going to be an L train shutdown.
So they say that, yeah.
How are you feeling about this? Do you want your rally car back? Are you happy?
Personally, I actually really like public transit. I really like the L train, which is a good thing for me since it's going to continue. But it is a hard fight to convince car people to embrace public transit sometimes. But for some of us, it goes hand in hand. I will say there are more fuel-efficient cars that some of us do enjoy, like diesels. A lot of car people are really into diesel cars, which have a bad rep, but actually modern diesels are pretty fuel-efficient and rather clean, especially when you compare them to their gas, petrol equivalents. Unfortunately, that also got a little more hairy after the whole Volkswagen Dieselgate thing. But yeah, it can be a hard argument.
It's a hard
convince
sell.
Car people to go like EV and whatnot.
Right, but what about motorcycle? Is that like an easier sell, like car and motorcycle?
Sure, yeah. I mean, my thing is like I have a lot of car friends, and like when I told them about my plan to like buy a motorcycle, these are people who don't ride.
Yeah.
When I told them about my plan to buy a motorcycle, they're like, no, like it's too like risky, too dangerous. I don't know, like I just can't get there. But then I have other friends who are also very car friendly and car oriented, who love riding, and that's like totally their thing. And it's like those people feel like, well, they're easier to work on, they're much easier to get around the city. It's way easier to park a motorcycle. You still have to deal with like all the rules, but like just like squeeze it in anywhere.
Right, you can park anywhere.
Yeah, so I feel like as someone who lives in the city, it is much easier, much more, it makes a lot more sense to get into biking than like having a full-on car. Like you could technically probably do an oil change on the street, which you could do in a car. You could do with a car, but I probably wouldn't recommend it, you know?
So we asked our previous guests, members of the Sirens, if they had any advice for you as a new rider. So here's what they said.
Okay.
My advice for riding in New York City traffic is this is a place for a Zen master. You really have to feel the flow. Feel the flow and feel comfortable in it. Ride in the spot where you feel comfortable in that flow, and you'll certainly do better.
Any response to that advice?
I mean, that all sounds like stuff I agree with, especially, again, coming from a car background, someone who really tries to just get, like, comfortable with, like, what I'm handling, the equipment that I'm handling. Like, this stuff is very dangerous, and if you misuse or aren't comfortable with what you're riding on or even what you're driving, it could end very poorly. So I like to think that I'm someone who kind of understands that and just kind of inches up. I do believe that to really get used to get comfortable and be safe, you have to know the limits of what you're dealing with. So yeah, I do plan on getting out the city and riding it and like just like getting it on some good back roads. So I have a lot of back roads kind of mapped out in my mind that I go driving on. So I totally plan on doing it, calling up some of my bike friends and just going for it. That is in the cards.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron, so much for joining us, and good luck with the riding.
Thank you. Thank you.